Barbie Goes to the Gym, 1999. We have Barbie Goes to School, 1999. And we have Divorced Barbie, 375 pounds. And the father, well, looks the same to me. Why is she so expensive? Well, because that one comes with Ken's house, Ken's car, Ken's furniture, and Ken's dog. So yes, it is pretty expensive to go through a divorce. Loneliness also is pretty expensive, at least emotionally. And hopefully we're going to learn a few things today that will help us avoid that. So let's first clear up a few things about today's class. At first, I want you to understand that at times here, we'll be speaking specifically about men, to men, specifically at other times about women, to women, okay? And it's gonna sound like we're really shooting you down, but it's not, I promise you. It doesn't mean that one is better or worse than the other. We just have to be very balanced, and for that reason we've got ammunition for both sides, okay? Singles and couples will take very valuable lessons from the class today. You just have to stay focused, apply to your situation. We know we have people here from all walks of life, and if you tune in to what's being said, if you pay attention, I know that whatever your situation, you will learn something that can really impact your life. So take out your notepad and pen. I think it's in your goodie bag if you don't have it in your handy already. I know it may be a bit dark for you there, but you might want to write a few things down. Not everything. Hopefully you stay focused most of the time here, but from time to time you might hear something that you say, I cannot forget that. Let me write that down. Okay? So please make sure you're ready in case you want to remember later. So the subject for today's class is going to be about the UK's 7 biggest relationship sins. The UK's 7 biggest relationship sins and how you can redeem yourself from them. Because most of us have or are committing these sins, making these mistakes, and we need to know what they are and how to get out of them so you won't pay a high price in your love life. So the UK's 7 biggest relationship sins. First of all, we say the UK's, but in reality these sins are really a world problem. It's happening worldwide. It's a trend. And Europe and the US, as usual, are leading it. And these 7 mistakes are all connected. One leads to another, one feeds off another, and you'll understand how it will all come together in a moment. So very important, 7 biggest relationship sins. There will be a lot of information, but I know that it will be very valuable to you. I don't know if you want to say anything as your introduction.
Nah. I'll wait to start. Just start. Start them and
Okay,
I'll talk.
let's go right to it then. So, the UK's 7 biggest relationship sins. Let's go to sin number 1. Okay? Putting money before love. Money or career before love. That's the first sin. What's causing it? Why are people putting career and money, a lot of people putting these things above love on their list. Well, the whole culture is driving us. Everything around you is sending that message to you that you have to prioritize your career. You have to have money, even as a bridge to love and marriage. You have to prioritize that. You know, it used to be for thousands of years, until recently, it used to be that survival depended on you and your family sticking together. There was power in numbers. There was strength in numbers. So parents taught their kids from birth that they had to prepare to make their own family, to get married, to have children, etc. And they had many children because survival depended on their numbers, on them sticking together. At times when you had to literally defend your tribe, at times when you had to work basically depended on manual labor, you needed hands. So people clustered together, they stuck together, and that was strength, that was prosperity, that was more important than money, that was actually what guaranteed their survival. Okay? So the larger your family, the better off you were. But times changed. And what began to happen was that in some families, because men were the main providers, the main breadwinners, women mostly stayed at home, raised children, took care of the house. Because they were the main providers, so some men, some say a lot of men, began to take advantage of that position of power. It wasn't like that in all cases, in all families, but in many families, because men brought home the bacon, brought home the money, he thought that he had the power to do whatever he liked, because he put food on the table. Basically, his wife and kids depended on him. So some men took that power to an extreme. And the result was that, unfortunately, many women became, as you can imagine, very unhappy. They felt stuck in a marriage where sometimes men would cheat on them, would abuse them, would spend money on booze, on drinking. And if these women tried at any moment to complain, what they would hear from their husband would be, well, what are you complaining about? Isn't there food on the table? What are you complaining about? So, this made many women feel stuck in a male-dominated world without any options. This picture says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, this guy could have switched places with his wife and let her sit more comfortably, but no. That wasn't the priority in a man's mind those days. So until recently, what happened was that men were doing that and women were without any options until options began to appear, to come up. A revolution began to happen at about 60 years ago. And suddenly women said, we can do it. Women received lots of opportunities. The job market opened for women. More hands were needed. The Industrial Revolution needed more hands to work in factories and everywhere basically, and women jumped at this opportunity. They saw with it the prospect of independence. You know, now we can earn our own money. Now we can earn our own money. Now we don't have to depend 100% on men. And that's what they did. And they took the job market by storm and began to make money, began to prosper, etc., etc. And suddenly now they had options. Suddenly now those women who were stuck in burdensome marriages were no longer, because now they didn't need a man to support them. And they began this message, they began to preach this gospel that women were now liberated, women were now free, and thank God for that, because there was a lot that they needed to be liberated from. That's a great progress that happened. And people, society began to listen to them, but the first ones who heard them, the first ones who began to listen to these women were, of course, their kids. And suddenly, these mothers, often bitter wives, trapped in an unhappy marriage, whose marriage experience was horrible, they began to tell their sons and daughters. They turned to their daughters and said, "Look, my daughter, I'm going to tell you something. Make sure you study. Make sure you get good grades. That you get a career. That you earn your own money. So you never have to rely on men. Don't do what I did." That's the advice that they began to give their daughters. And daughters began to grow up, focusing to make my money, can't rely on men, I have to have my independence, my career, etc. And again, well-intended, very good advice, which helped a lot of women. And to their sons, of course, as if men needed more incentive to work and make money, they repeated the message. "My son, make lots of money. You have to take good care of a woman when you marry, but do not marry very soon. Don't go marrying the first girl that shows up." In other words, thinking about themselves. "I married your father, very early. Look what happened to me." Don't do that. Wait. Date a lot. Go and see what's out there, and only then you settle. So basically the advice was that. Very well intended advice, which basically was saying money equals independence, and independence gives you options. You don't have to be stuck. As I said, I'm not criticizing here the women's revolution. I think it has lots of positive things. But there is a law of unintended consequences